Abandoned, a Jennifer Malone Mystery by John Schlarbaum. Read for you by the author. Chapter 1. Don't let them kill me! It took a moment for Luke to understand what the woman had said. No one is going to kill you, Helga, I promise, he said with a genuine smile and short laugh, helping her onto the stretcher. Once on her back, another concerned look came over Helga's face, as if a jolt of pain had flashed through her clouded mind. You promise? As a patient transporter, Luke had seen this expression countless times, not only on the anxious faces of the elderly like Helga, but also children taking the ride from the hospital's pediatric floor to the OR. At least with the kids, their equally terrified parents were present in the crammed elevator, trying to appear unconcerned and upbeat, although they weren't always successful in this regard. Patients above the age of 30, and more so with senior citizens, were usually by themselves in their rooms when Luke arrived to whisk them away, often for tests they didn't know they had scheduled. Most, however, were aware that they were going to have a surgical procedure done, if for no other reason than their food and drink consumption had been cut off the evening before. The majority of the older transfers went down alone, which Luke hated to see. This meant he would be the last non-surgical and thereby less scary employee the patient would interact with before going under the knife. Yes, I promise, Luke said as he wheeled the stretcher to the nurse's station to pick up Helga's medical binder. Helga, you'll be back in no time with a brand new hip. How exciting! Stephanie, the daytime nurse from room 8103, said cheerfully, bringing a mild nonverbal smirk to Helga's face. Good luck! At this stage, it's not about luck, is it, Helga? Luke broke in with a huge smile as he placed the binder under the side of the mattress. It's about skill. Before stepping to the rear of the stretcher out of her view, he briefly rested his hand on Helga's arm and added, We've got this, right? The old woman's use of hip modern terminology brought laughter to the other two nurses sitting at a nearby desk. She's such a sweetheart, one of them said. Luke inserted his key into the lock on the wall and hit the down button. A special elevator for a special lady. A moment later, the elevator door opened and Luke pushed the stretcher into the small space, then hit G on the keypad. Once they were moving, he stepped to the side wall in order to speak with Helga face to face. I noticed on your armband that your date of birth is February 19th, 1928. That's quite a while ago. Were you born around here? Over the years, Luke had found during these short trips to the hospital's various departments and wings that this question was a good one, as it immediately got the patient thinking about something they truly loved, themselves. The unexpected inquiry had its desired effect. Oh no, I was sent to this country when I was 10, Helga replied in a nostalgic tone. I was born in Berlin, Germany. Wow. 10 years old, heading to World War II? That must have been some real crazy times, Luke said. I was never a big history fan in school, but I'm sure your stories will give me a new appreciation of what was really going on back then. The elevator came to a stop as Luke asked, Did your family get out of Germany before the war? The lines on Helga's weary face hardened once again. Only me and my brother. The elevator door opened, abruptly ending the conversation, as Luke still had a job to do, and Helga had a surgery time to meet. From the penthouse to the ground floor, Luke chirped as he guided Helga's stretcher down the OR corridor. You know, I'm working the next couple days, and maybe if you're feeling up to it, I could pop in to talk with you. Would that be all right? Helga had zoned poor Luke out, as she stared down the hallway that was identical to all the other ones she had seen during her stay, cold, gray, and unfeeling. This wasn't her first rodeo, as her pretty young nurse once commented, but it was very different. The card attached to the flowers which arrived in her room as she slept the previous day made sure of that. All the best, Helga. See you soon. As Luke tried to keep her mind off the fact she was about to lay unconscious for an hour or more, Defenseless against an attack, Helga scanned the faces of the people in the ultrasound and x-ray waiting room they were cutting through, as well as anyone in scrubs. She knew they were here. "I present to you Ms. Helga," Luke announced helpfully to two nurses as he positioned the stretcher against the wall and applied the brake. "She's all yours now." "Thanks, Luke," one of the nurses replied as she took the medical binder from him. "We'll take good care of her from here on out." "Excellent," he replied, stepping to the foot of the bed. "Take care, Helga. I hope I'll be the one dispatched to take you back to your room." Helga held Luke's warm gaze, ignoring the nurses as they began to fuss with her in preparation for the surgery. "Remember what I said, Luke," Helga said in a near whisper, "because you're the only one who'll care later on." Luke gave Helga a quizzical look, the way one responded to a child who is just learning how to talk, or in this case, a crazy elderly patient hopped up on drugs to combat the constant pain of a broken hip. "I will, don't worry about that. I'll see you soon." Luke walked out of the room and called the admitting department on his radio. "Luke here. That patient from 8 is down in OR. "Okay, thanks," came the bored reply of the overworked female clerk. "There's nothing on the board right now." Luke put the radio in the front pocket of his scrub top and simultaneously pulled out his cell phone to check his email account. As he passed the OR waiting room with his head down, he heard a man in a thick accent say, "She just went in. What do you want me to do now?" Luke slowed and turned his head to see who was talking, wondering if one of Helga's relatives or friends had shown up to support her in her time of need. Unfortunately, his eyes were greeted with the backs of 3 different aged men, one at the payphone and the others on their cell phones in conversation. He would usually stop and say a few words to reassure the waiting party, but not knowing which of the men he had overheard, nor if they were even discussing Helga, Luke returned his attention to a new message from his girlfriend with the subject line, "You!" "No big deal. I'll talk to him later when I take her back upstairs after surgery," he thought. "Hi, Luke," his work radio squawked. "Can you pick up some labs on 4 West and then go on a break?" "Sure thing. Thanks." Making his way back to the elevator, he again wandered by the OR waiting room and noticed that 2 of the men he had seen previously were sitting in chairs watching the television hanging on the wall. The third man, an older gray-haired gentleman wearing an overcoat, was no longer present. Probably went for coffee upstairs, he assumed. Luke inserted his key into the wall lock and the express elevator door opened obediently. Stepping inside, he pressed the 4 button. "And here we go," he said to the walls. "Another action-filled adventure starts now." As if on cue, the elevator doors closed and sent the happy-go-lucky employee on his way. This concludes Chapter 1 of Abandoned, a Jennifer Malone mystery.